Hello, in this video I'll explain how to use Bible Lovers Worship Ableton project and what equipment you should have to get started. For demonstration purposes, let's take song How Great Is Our God. The link to download How Great Is Our God Ableton project in description below. Let's play it and light up keys of notes that is expected to be played by players. As you see, song plays, and all you need to press those keys in order this song sound exactly the same way. What equipment you should have to get started? Let's see how does it look live. That's my notebook with Ableton on board. System requirements on the screen. That's my lighted keyboards. That's an USB cable that passes MIDI signal. That's external digital mixing station Behringer XR. That's personal in-ear monitoring. I remind you that Ableton has extended 3 months trial period, so you can try it absolutely free. Let's suppose that you just downloaded Ableton. Next you have to download packs. To do that you have to show left panel and click packs and click download on each pack. Few remarks, you have to download about 100 gigabytes. So this procedure takes time, even hours. Sometimes downloading more than a couple packs concurrently can cause invisible troubles. So it looks like everything downloaded fine, but actually it's not. My advice not to download more than a couple of packs at the time. So Ableton is ready. Next, let's open How Great Is Our God project. First, we need to set up audio latency. To do that, go to Preference, Audio tab, Latency section. Output buffer size should be less than or equal 512 and 256 is better and tested by us. Done. Let's test your computer performance to avoid sound cracks. First, go to any heavily loaded part of song. Second chorus, for instance. At the very top of this stream, you can find a song structure anchors. Hit on play at second chorus and start playing. If you face cracks or noise troubles, please check audio troubleshoot video in description below. Let's see project structure. As you remember, it is expected that each project will be played by 5 people. That's why there is 5 tracks with source text in its label in the end of track name. So one track produces sound for one musician. So 5 people is enough to play this song. As you see here, we have extra tracks. I will explain later why we add extra tracks sometimes. Also, there is a voice track, it can be muted here, as well as tracks of musicians. Next is group notes track. Unwrap it, it contains pre-recorded notes for each of 5 musicians. By default, notes that are being played are taken specifically from corresponding notes track, not from source track. Clips from source track can be deleted and the song still plays. Let me show you. If musician wants to practice at home some part, drums part for instance, he should mute corresponding drums notes track and play instead of it. Otherwise, if you don't mute corresponding notes track, musician will be playing with or above predefined notes. The same situation with Sunday worship performance. Each of notes track should be muted while playing live. On the other hand, if your bass player got sick and or not prepared well for Sunday worship, you can replace him simply unmuting corresponding bass notes track and pre-recorded notes will be playing. Next track is a home config. It relates to preparing to rehearsal. So let's suppose that you want to practice at home. What you need? First, let's make device configuration for practice. Let's start and set up your MIDI keyboard. Choose player, home track, click input drop-down menu, scroll up and select your MIDI device. Then click on MIDI output drop-down menu, choose your item in players section. If you are a bass player, select bass player. If you have lighted MIDI keyboard, you can easily set up key lighting. Choose LED home track. Again, let's suppose that you are a bass player. Click on input MIDI drop-down menu and select bass notes. Then let's click on output MIDI drop-down menu, scroll up and select your lighted MIDI keyboard. If your lighted keyboard isn't appear in the list, please go to Preference, Link MIDI, Output section. Track toggle should be on for your instrument. Click on Output MIDI drop-down menu, scroll up and select your lighted MIDI keyboard. Doing that will send bass notes to your lighted MIDI keyboard and light up keys of bass player on your keyboard. From our practice, lighting keys are very useful, even for those who's able to read from music sheet. You can find a link to the most budget lighted keyboard in description below. The final step is to set up your in-ear monitor. If you hit play button, as the default state, all parts of instrument appears in your headphones. It is already been said that you can mute all notes track in order to hear yourself only. But what if you want to hear yourself with the rest of instruments? Unmuting each of notes track but yours will make it hard to hear yourself. So we can turn up the volume of your instrument in left ear of headphones and the rest of instrument will be heard in right ear. So let's do it. In monitor home track, let's select your instrument. For instance, if you are a bass musician, select bass monitor, then click on post mixer and choose prefix. Please pay attention that each time you change monitor, this value is reset to post mixer, so each time you need to select prefix again. Then select in monitor. As you see, monitor sound goes to first channel, so now you hear your bass performance in the left ear of headphones. And still you hear the rest of instrument in left ear while playing the whole song, because master goes to both channels. So in order to turn down master in left ear, let's shift master balance right. So now we hear bass louder in left ear. After that, if you click on second chorus and press MIDI keyboard, you should hear distinctly what you're playing. Attention, please save the project after successful home setup. Next, I want to share with you our approach to learn and practice at home. Let's suppose that your role in band is a bass player. After successful home setup, I start practice with or above predefined notes. So I can hear what I supposed to play and try to play it at the same time. You can mute other instruments to hear yourself better. To do that, mute all musician notes track in grouped notes track. After that, you will hear yourself only and vocal track. Also, sometimes it's much faster to learn your part if you slower the tempo. After playing with or above pre-recorded notes, I mute pre-recorded notes, so I'm the only one who plays bass part now. And unmute the rest of instrument to hear all the band. Metronome can be turned on and its volume can be set here. Also, by default, metronome is routed to first channel, left ear. Okay, now let's talk about Sunday worship routing. Pay attention on grouped players track. MIDI keyboard of each musician should be selected in corresponding track. For instance, if you are drums player, then you should choose drums player track and click input MIDI and select MIDI keyboard of drums player. For bass player, please choose bass player track and click input MIDI and select MIDI keyboard of bass player in the list of external devices. The same with the rest of musicians' MIDI keyboard. Okay, next track is grouped LED backlight keys. You need this track only if you have lighted keyboards. As you can expect, it sends to lighted MIDI keyboard which key should be highlighted at the moment. To highlight drums player lighted MIDI keyboard, please choose drums LED track, then click on output MIDI device and select lighted MIDI keyboard of drums player in the list. To highlight bass player MIDI keyboard, choose bass LED track and click on output MIDI device and select lighted MIDI keyboard of bass player in the list of external devices. And the same for the rest of lighted MIDI keyboard. Now let's take a look at grouped monitor track. Let's unwrap it. The purpose of this track is personal in-ear monitoring for each player. Question: how can player hear what he plays on stage? Each notebook has a headphones output, which means 2 channels, left and right. But we need at least 7 or 8 channels, 5 plus channels for in-ear monitoring for each musician, 1 for metronome, 2 for master output. So computers built in 2 output channels can't handle monitor for each musician. That's why we need external sound card or digital mixing station containing at least 7 output channels. Here we are using budget portable digital mixer Behringer X-Air 18. You definitely can consider buying it. Churchfront proposed it, link in description below. Or X32 Compact if your money allows, or propose your option in comments below. For mixing station, also you need Behringer P1 or P2 for personal monitoring. This is the most budget solution for mixing stations. Now, I'll explain our default routing for Sunday worship for X-Air. By default, we reserved first 7 channels to each musician. 8-channel metronome. Channels from 9 to 16 are reserved for possible future vocal processing. And 17th and 18th are channels for master track. So, if to compare home configuration and Sunday configuration, they have contradiction. In home config, master goes to first 2 channels, but on Sunday config, master goes to 17th and 18th channel, and drums goes to first and second channel. That's why each monitor track is muted on Sunday config grouped monitor track. And after successful Sunday worship setup, please unmute each of them. Each musician can control his personal mixing in X-Air mobile app, both for Android and iOS. Okay, we are done with the setup and configurations. Now, let's get back and talk about extra tracks. There are a couple reasons for them. Sometimes track can contain FX or noise effect. There is no music sense for somebody to play it. Another reason is a part can be very boring and doesn't have significant impact on global sound. Other words, ignoring or muting such a track won't cause significant changes, but it sounds better with it. Such a case in this song. Extra track plays the following. Okay, so we are done. If you have any questions, please leave it in comments below. We worked hard to create this video, so please hit like button and subscribe for more worship videos. Again, the link to download How Great Is Our God Ableton project in description below. Thank you very much for your attention. We want to glorify Jesus with all power of technologies. Yes, God Almighty, worthy to be praised.